The Caribbean is turning into a battlefield, it seems. President Trump is reportedly preparing military strikes against Venezuela, targeting bases tied to the booming cocaine trade. Maduro calls it an act of aggression. Washington calls it a message of power. Our next report getting you the latest.
A new storm brews off the coast of South America. The Trump administration is gearing up for possible airstrikes on Venezuelan military facilities, U.S. officials confirmed to the Wall Street Journal. According to the U.S., these sites are allegedly used to smuggle cocaine. The move marks a dangerous new phase in America's confrontation with President Nicolas Maduro's regime, long accused by the Trump administration of running a narco state that floods U.S. streets with drugs. Intelligence reports say Pentagon has identified targets include airstrips, radar bases, and naval depots in western Venezuela. In the last few days, the tension has escalated sharply. The timing is explosive. American destroyers and aircraft carrier have deployed across the Caribbean in the largest anti-narcotics military operation in decades. Then came the strikes, swift, lethal, devastating. U.S. Navy assets patrolling the Caribbean blew up 4 suspected drug boats, killing 14 on board. Caracas retaliated with fiery claims saying Venezuelan air defenses shot down 3 drug planes near the Colombian border. Back in U.S., Congress fumes with a push to limit Trump's unchecked war powers. Critics slam the legality of these strikes, warning they flout international law, inviting chaos. Supporters insist the strikes cut off poison flowing into America and destruction of narco-terrorist empire in Venezuela. Until now, the fury of U.S. intervention remained focused offshore, but with American fighter jets, destroyers, and special forces massing, a land assault is only one spark away. Maduro is vowing resistance. Trump moves his pieces relentlessly, signaling decisive moves that could topple Venezuela's regime at any cost. Bureau Report, WION World is one.
Wall Street stocks are set for another record run as strong earnings from big tech firms lifted sentiment after a brief pause in the relentless rally. The tech optimism offset the uncertainty surrounding the Federal Reserve's rate path and the economic impact from the ongoing U.S. shutdown. U.S. stocks opened in the green on Friday, a day after Wall Street benchmark slipped amid the tech weakness on massive AI spending plans. While Wall Street pumped the brakes on Thursday on jaw-dropping AI spending plans, Amazon's fastest cloud unit growth in nearly 3 years boosted the firm's stock to surge 12%. Apple stocks, meanwhile, gained on a revenue beat and a beat holiday forecast for its new iPhone 17 series. Nvidia's stock surge came after the chipmaker unveiled new AI deals with South Korean firms. The gains in Apple and Amazon offered investors a brief respite from Thursday's bruising session for tech mega caps. Meta, meanwhile, drew record demand for its $30 billion bond sale that signaled investors are looking past AI concerns and continuing to bet on a rally that has added $17 trillion in value since April. Energy stocks also were boosted after Shell announced a profit of $43 billion after production hit new highs in Brazil and the Gulf of Mexico. Still, Shell is on track to report lower annual profits this year compared with 2024. That is largely due to lower oil and gas prices in the global market, with the scenario at other major energy giants showing a similar pattern. Despite a pullback on Thursday, a measure of the S&P 500 marked the longest streak of surge since 2011. In fact, the benchmark currently trading above its 50-day moving average for 125 consecutive sessions. Also marked the third longest stretch this century. The longest run since 2000 was 149 sessions, by the way, which ended in February 2007, just before the financial crisis. And before that, the index remained above its 50-day moving average for 257 consecutive trading days from January 1995 to January 1996, its longest streak on record, dating back to 1928. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 is trading 13% above its 200-day moving average, the widest gap since July 2024. This run has been historic. However, markets beyond the US shores are showing signs of fatigue after hitting fresh records. Asian and European markets seem to have completely ignored Wall Street's optimism. While an Asian stocks gauge edged lower on Friday, it still marked a 7th month of gains. However, in Europe, the index fell for a 4th straight day. And that puts the benchmark on track for its longest losing streak since July. Markets were mixed in other corners, with gold sliding as much as 1% before trimming some of those losses. But the yellow metals still held above $4,000 an ounce mark on Friday. Treasury yields rose across the curve and a gauge of the dollar steadied. Crude oil was little changed after closing out in the red on Thursday. When Halloween meets politics in Washington, D.C., the results can be spooky, sharply satirical in a way. This year, homes across the capital city have turned the season's fright into political commentary, taking aim at the Trump administration with their humor and elaborate displays. Spookily, in historic Georgetown, one townhouse calling itself the White House of Horrors, featuring skeletons dressed as Trump-era figures, including a camouflage-clad cosplay Christie, a nod to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. And just down the street, Christian Payne, who happens to live next door to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has placed a skeleton in her front window, holding a sign that reads, "Wish I had taken my vaccine." Now, for context here, Kennedy has been a vocal critic of the COVID-19 vaccine mandates and has pushed for expanded vaccine exemptions and reviews. At some homes, tombstones read, "I did my own research," quote unquote, and "Director of National Idiocy."
We knew we wanted to do something spooky, and it was our opportunity to send a little message because there's a lot of things going on right now. So once again, I think that this is an opportunity just to send a little message. We just need it. I think we all need to speak out with what's going on.
I feel like interesting to see the signs and the decorations. I know he wants to draw more the people's attention about the vaccination and some healthy or research about the things people are concerned every day.
Political Halloween decor is nothing new in heavily Democratic Washington, but this year's displays come as President Trump enters the 9th month of his second term and amid one of the longest government shutdowns in U.S. history, remember. Millions suffering due to the shutdown, concern rising, Americans blaming President Trump.
I love how they're expressing their opinions in such a spooky and unique way. A White House of Horrors, elect a clown, expect a circus. I thought that was so hilarious. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe someone came up with this kind of idea.
Across town on Capitol Hill, 79-year-old Donna Breslin has created the Project 2025 Graveyard, a mock cemetery mourning what she calls the deaths of public programs under Trump, each headstone marking a cut or rollback from climate science and public broadcasting to due process.
I think it's great, and I think it's wonderful that we can all have a sense of humor about this.
Europe facing the deadly tensions of a new nuclear brinkmanship as Putin tests nuclear weapons and Trump orders America to restart nuclear weapon tests. The continent, it seems, is bracing itself, caught in the relentless superpower standoff with fate hanging in the balance.
Putin's recent unveiling of the nuclear-powered cruise missile Burevestnik and the Poseidon underwater drone sent shockwaves through Europe. These weapons, cloaked in mystery and capable of catastrophic damage, epitomize the Kremlin's push to modernize its nuclear arsenal and secure strategic dominance. Russia's drills included nuclear launch exercises that rattled NATO's eastern flank, signaling a fierce readiness to defend its interests. Not to be outdone, Donald Trump abruptly ended the United States' 33-year moratorium on nuclear testing, ordering the Department of War to initiate nuclear weapons testing.
Well, we would work with the Department of Energy, but the President was clear. We need to have a credible nuclear deterrent. That is the baseline of our deterrence. And so having understanding and resuming testing is a pretty responsible, very responsible way to do that. I think it makes nuclear conflict less likely if you know what you have and make sure it operates properly. So it's the right directive.
Europe is caught in the crossfire. In response, EU member states are rushing to build a war highway, an initiative reconfiguring infrastructure and easing cross-border movements of tanks and troops. The aim is to ensure rapid deployment across the continent. The goal is to fortify the eastern flank against possible aggression. The continent witnessed the horrors of 2 world wars and is now bolstering its defenses, fearing a third. Eastern European nations, Poland, Estonia and Finland, are fortifying their borders, while France and Germany are quietly coordinating contingency plans for a nuclear emergency. Yet neither Trump nor Putin seems ready to blink. Both men are locked in a contest of pride and power, and for Europe, caught in between. The 21st century's nuclear race is no longer a theory. It's back, and it's real. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Ladakh trembled under thunder and fire. The skies blazed with rockets, artillery shells and drone swarms dancing in deadly formation. The Indian Army's Northern Command turned the frozen desert into a theatre of pure power. Take a look.
The air cracked with sound. A deafening roar echoed through Ladakh's icy valleys. From the high ridges, multi-barrel rocket launchers unleashed fiery trails. Every blast shook the earth. Every explosion painted the horizon red. Rows of Bofors and K9 Vajra guns followed, their barrels tilting in perfect synchrony before hurling fire across the rugged terrain. Dust clouds rose, shimmering against the blue sky. The soldiers moved in, tight precision trained, calm, relentless. The Indian Army's Northern Command demonstrated its firepower in one of the most formidable battle exercises in recent years, called Astra Shakti. The high-altitude desert transformed into a theatre of combat innovation where technology met raw determination. Each explosion and rocket blast underscored India's capability to project power decisively and preserve its forces even in the world's toughest landscape. Astra Shakti declared readiness like never before, a roaring testament to precision, innovation and the indomitable spirit of the Indian forces. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
India is reportedly set to host the leadership of the European Union as chief guest for the next year's Republic Day celebrations. And this marks a historic moment in the India-EU relationship, signaling a deeper strategic partnership between the two sides. According to reports, India has extended invitations to the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the European Council President Antonio Costa to attend the Republic Day parade in January. The formal confirmation of their acceptance is expected soon, reportedly. This will be the first time ever that the European Union's top leadership will grace India's Republic Day as chief guests, and officials say the move reflects the growing warmth and maturity in the ties. During a press briefing, India's External Affairs Ministry said that nothing on the official guest list has been finalized yet. And this comes just weeks after the Union Commerce Minister recently concluded a trip to Brussels, where he held talks with the European Union's Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security. Two senior EU commissioners, meanwhile, visited India. Several agreements have also been closed between the two sides. This includes intellectual property rights, customs, digital trade, or even around small and medium-sized enterprises. The timing of this engagement is also significant as global alliances shift and the US foreign policy remains unpredictable. Both the sides are seeking reliable and like-minded partners. Despite some differences, particularly over Russia's war in Ukraine, officials say the convergences between India and the EU far outweigh the divergences. The two sides share common ground on strategic autonomy, sustainable growth and global stability. With the European Union leadership sharing the Republic Day dais next year, the celebrations will not just mark India's national pride, but also a new era in cooperation between the two sides, if that happens. A partnership built on trust, trade and shared values, clearly taking center stage. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.